I started Surviving Skye with the goal of bringing more awareness to my sister Skye's disappearance. And I thought the best way to do this would be to start a podcast. That way I can really get into the details and bring some humanity to this case. The truth is, I didn't know how to start a podcast. So when I discovered Spotify for podcasters, it had everything I needed. I could record, edit, and then send it out to all the streaming platforms out there. I didn't need to take too much time getting hung up on all the technical aspects. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you have something that you're passionate about and you just feel like you can inform the world about what you know, then why not start a podcast and check out Spotify for podcasters today. This is episode 7 of Surviving Skye. Conversations with Our Mother, chapter 3. This is the third part of a longer conversation that I had with our mother. Like I said in previous episodes, there is limited editing as to not disrupt the flow of the conversation. I also suggest that if it is your first time listening, don't start with this episode. Start from the beginning. I don't interrupt the conversation to provide any explanations or extra details about the subject. But I do want to take a moment to thank all of those who have been listening. This is the type of conversation that I have with my mom on a regular basis. It's been a cathartic experience to know that people are listening in, and it's the most honest way I know to fully capture what it's really like for us. We've only had one another throughout all of this. While others just experienced the loss of Skye, my mother and I were at the forefront of the investigation. So in other words, what I want to say is thank you for making us feel not so alone. And without further ado, let's just get right back into it. But yeah, I was looking through like the timeline. So this was Sheridan. We stayed at a Sheridan in both of them. This is a Sheridan Sapporo. Because the interpreter, remember the interpreter?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he was very nice to us.
So we were in Tokyo from the 12th to the 14th.
Right.
And that was Sheridan Miyako. Okay, so I want to show you.
Yeah.
Let me find it. This is how I knew it was here.
If you're showing me the picture, I saw that.
These. Do you not remember the room that we had the press conference in?
Yeah. But Sheridan, they all look alike to me.
No, it was...
The whole thing was, the reason why I'm saying this is because, after the, there was a Swedish gentleman who basically owned the Sheridan.
Yeah, he was like the general manager or something, right?
Right. I think it was the ambassador or maybe it was the interpreter. They came up to me and they said that he was the one who opened up this...
The room for us to have the press conference.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, you should say thank you.
Yeah.
And I remember, doing that. No, we didn't fly out for the...
Yes, we did.
See, that one I totally... well, I was out of it anyway. Totally out of it. They had us fly out to Tokyo for that?
We flew out to Tokyo because it was the main media hub.
Right.
And we were going to get the most coverage there. Do you remember what we did after?
Yeah, we walked around. It was a really the middle of the night, and it reminded me of the Times Square type thing. It was just huge.
Remember we went to Tokyo Tower?
Yes. Do you know, I didn't remember that until you mentioned it a couple months ago, and I said, oh my God, yes. because we saw the whole thing.
Yeah, it was like 10 o'clock at night or something.
Yes,
and we're
yes.
just like, let's go.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we had the press conference in the evening, and that was in Tokyo. Tokyo Tower is in Tokyo.
Oh my God, honey. Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
It was crazy.
See, that's the thing. Okay,
we
so
were
that
in such a state.
that
You know what?
ABC News article, that person had the journalist reached out a few times. It was all through email, but
Okay.
it was difficult to get a hold of him. I think in there it even said he talked to Matt, and Matt wouldn't identify himself.
Okay.
And it said Matt is like the middle child or something.
Right.
It has a lot of little small details that are just wrong.
They were just wrong. Okay. All right. The only thing I do know is, like you said before, there's no place for people with missing loved ones to go to.
No, there's
You
no,
are
no
literally
protocol or
in
systems in place.
You are literally in an emotional state.
Yeah.
You are screaming for help. You go to the police. Of course, that's the first thing that you do. You always go is to the police.
But like they didn't take it seriously. They're like, oh, she'll be back. Oh, this is like what somebody of that age does. But like they didn't take into account who she was as a person. Like they never asked those questions.
No.
And even if we said it's not like her, they still wouldn't believe you because they are still like just judging it on their own experience or what they're trained to do.
Yeah.
But
And even what do you do after? Or
in our case, they did nothing.
yeah. And we just didn't know. I assumed, like in Japan, they told us what they were going to do.
Yeah.
They were basically going to keep Skye's picture posted for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
They will follow up with any investigation if anybody came in as a witness or someone who saw Skye. They would immediately investigate that.
They'd follow up, yep.
And that was about all.
Yeah.
They weren't going to actively, because they basically, that interview we had brought quite a few people out and they called up and said, yes, I did see Skye. This is what happened. And it was like 2 days. But after that, nothing. And they didn't have enough information after that. They were only going to go by witnesses.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Now, this is something that, like, I've gone back to look at. And it says, this is from Ian Hillman. This was on April 7th. So this was prior to us even getting there. And it says, in the event we do locate Skye, I need to tell you up front that in accordance with the Privacy Act of 1974, the consulate needs to get her permission before we can share information on where she is.
Yes, they told me that.
If she does not give us permission, our only alternative after locating Skye is to inform her that you are concerned and ask her to contact you directly.
Yes.
Do you think there's at any point that they...
No. He told me that if there was any if they found out anything, they would let me know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they're going to
and it's not like they would just bring you to her. There is like a privacy thing.
There was a protocol, and I understood that, especially with her being 21.
Yeah.
Like you said, is we told them that she might be suicidal. That helped with us, with them doing something. If it was just a 21-year-old woman whose mom and dad's chasing after her, no, they wanted to go, that they were not going to do anything.
Yeah.
We needed to let them know.
That in itself is concerning. If, like, there are other families out there who just lose somebody, just, like, unexpectedly. Like, how is it not, like...
I think sometimes
investigated as, like, a murder or an abduction or something like that?
I think some of the privacy laws has hurt
vulnerable people.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, guaranteed. Yeah. Simple as that.
And I think a lot of times people are not open with, family struggles and things like that,
exactly.
Because it's not cute.
Yeah. People don't want to,
and so laws are not in place to actually really help people. They're in place to just make a certain people comfortable, but not everybody. A lot of people are just being dismissed and disregarded.
Yeah, as simple as that.
Like us.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, sometimes it makes me not angry, but like when you see these pretty young women that all of a sudden they're on the front page and they're missing. And they're getting national news. they're getting investigation. Is it because their parents have money, or is it just that because they're a pretty white blonde girl?
Yeah.
I
think it's both.
Yeah,
I think it's
have
like
money.
a nice, healthy combination
Yes.
of like who you already are.
Yeah.
If you have like in today's age, like if you have like followers on social media, if you're like an Instagram model,
Yeah.
you know, like you
Yeah.
need money, because that's another thing too. Like the police only have a finite amount of resources,
Of course.
and time. So after like a week, they're not going to put more officers
No.
on the case to look, you know, they're going to take away.
Yeah.
And a lot of these missing people's cases are self-funded by families.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that.
I never realized it either.
There's
until-
no budget in
Yeah.
the police budget
Yeah.
to help with missing people,
Yeah.
or murder investigations, or anything like that. I'm all for like defunding the police when it comes to like arming them to the teeth, but you should be funding them for actual community
Yes.
involvement and to actually help.
Right.
And it's not. That's not where the money goes.
I think the original, is the police are there to help us. But right now, there is to basically put the bad guy away.
And who is this bad guy?
Yeah, that's it.
There could be a bad guy in
Yeah.
Skye's case.
Oh.
And that wasn't even addressed.
No, it was not.
Nobody asked if we thought she was in danger.
And
Was that ever addressed?
No.
No. They never searched her car.
No, they
They
did not.
never stepped foot in her room.
No, they did not.
They didn't do anything.
No. Once they found out that she landed in Japan, then it was
no longer their issue.
exactly as
But
simple
the
as
thing
that.
is, like, they've never called, like, 3 months after the case, 6 months after the case, yearly. They've never done that.
They only several years later on, they called and I answered the phone, and this is the Southington police. We're just checking up. Did you ever get your daughter? Did you ever hear from Skye? And I remember it was like maybe 7:30 at night, 8 o'clock, and I answered the phone, and I was blindsided. Did you ever hear it from your daughter?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't talk. I just handed the phone. It's to Dad, and I just burst into tears. I hate to say it, Megan, but your mother's a very weak person. I wish I was stronger, but I'm going. What can you do?
That's the thing. It's just like nobody's ever prepared for these situations, and there's nobody ready to step up and take it on,
They don't.
especially in these systems, like in this.
International. Oh my God! Forget.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know our case is a little different because it involves local and like international like laws, and you're just not equipped to know any of it. You're not equipped.
You
We're not
don't
taught
know
these things.
And my generation, we were taught that the police will take care of it,
Yeah,
or people in authority, they'll help you.
yeah, but they just take their time, and they just kind of like.
I think sometimes
They don't even have comforting words to say. And that's the thing. Like, they should have some sort of, like, department in place where if these things happen, you have somebody who's equipped in, like, the field of psychology in order to know how to handle
They should have something.
people in distress
Yes.
like this. Because that's the thing. I know we're discussing timelines. And our timelines, we were there at the same time, and it feels radically different.
Oh, it
you
does.
know?
Definitely. Yeah.
Because you're just in a complete different state, and these situations define and expose all your capabilities and limitations,
They do.
you know, and they make you extremely vulnerable. And unless somebody's there with a video camera taping everything, you can't remember.
You actually,
You're fried.
and you're in such a state anyway. I remember after the Japanese, the interview in Japan, we had one day where people were calling in. We had 2 days where they got some information, but after that, it was over. Okay.
And now what?
We are now
sit
in the
around.
hotel, and I remember we were supposed to leave, and I was like, well, I want to stay.
Yeah.
Just in case if we did get a call from her, I want to be able to talk to her, tell her that whatever it is, honey, we could work this out.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So I stayed another
Yeah.
a couple of
'Cause
days.
I remember, like, we had it set for, like, 2 weeks we were there.
Yeah.
And, like, I think I had to go back to work.
You went back. Yes.
And
you
stayed another week or
Yeah.
another, like, 5 days or so.
Yeah, that.
By yourself.
Yeah, you were upset about leaving, but there wasn't anything more you could do. And what I basically did was I did long walks. I cried in their hotel lobby. I was a zombie, basically. And that was all. Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
It was several more days. I waited. And, yeah, that's what I did. I just waited. And I remember one of the hotel workers. She was very kind. And she came over and talked with me for a while. Yeah, that was it. And in the city, the way it was set up was they kind of like had a little bit of a bubbling brook, or maybe a little of not quite sure, a creek.
Mm-hmm.
And there was apartment buildings on either side, and in the middle was gardens and playgrounds. And I remember walking, and I was sitting at a bench. There was an older woman, and I'm sitting because I'm just resting, and she had a dog with her, and I just kind of looked at her, and we can't speak any. Yeah, we can't speak. So I just looked at her, and I pointed to her dog, and I looked at her, and I went, "Ruff, ruff," and I bent one, and I put up two fingers, and I said, pointed it to myself, and I said, "Meow, meow." And she looked at me, and she started to laugh, and we both laughed, and then she nodded. She knew exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, she had a dog, and I have two cats.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. It was very isolating.
Mm-hmm.
There was no one to talk to.
No.
Everyone. And then it was time for me to go. And I did have to. I remember you gave me instructions on how to get onto the train to get to the airport. And I got onto the wrong train. And as soon as I got onto the train, I knew. And there was a gentleman there because this was everyone was going to work, and this was a commuter train.
Uh-huh.
So everybody's that leaving, and I got off the train, and I'm looking. I couldn't understand any of the language, the billboards.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman there, which I stopped by, and I'm trying to explain to him, airport. I wanted to go to the airport. How do I get there from here? And he was very nice, but you can tell that his attitude was like, "Oh, why is this woman bothering me? I don't know what to do with her." But he did get me on the right train.
Yeah.
And I landed at the airport. And I'm just walking, and I went to talk to someone. I just was asking. And then finally it was the police was waiting for me. And they looked at me. They came over to me, and they said, "Oh, did you oversleep? You're late." And I said, "No, I got lost. I took the wrong train."
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, there was never any like escorts. There was never any like assistance. We were just like, "Hey, we're here. We're missing somebody."
At the time, I thought it was, okay, this is what they did, and would we have done anything different if it was that reverse? Would we help out?
Help out somebody in distress? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
We're the first ones who say, well, they didn't do this and they do that. But
would we have?
Would we have done it? Think about it. In a major airport.
Yeah. If I saw somebody like obviously
in distress.
But
basically, they came, they got me on the plane. And then, how long was that plane flight? Was it 20 hours?
So long.
It was like 20 hours. And people were nice on the plane. And I just Do you know you can cry and function at the same time?
Yeah. I did that actually.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what you
Do
do.
that all the time.
You're just crying and you're functioning. And it was amazing what the human body and the mental thing can do.
Yeah. I think women as a whole are masters of this.
And then I remember getting off the plane and Dad was there.
Did you have any? You had like how many layovers? Because there's obviously layovers.
Layers of what?
Layovers.
Oh, I didn't have any.
There's no direct flights to Connecticut from Japan, Mom. There's no direct flights to California.
I don't remember. Oh my God. I wonder how the hell I even got home.
I know.
Do you remember? I was in such a state of shock.
Yeah.
I had that we had a layover in Chicago. We had to.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like there was one in LA too, but I feel like there was a few.
I remember landing in, and they're asking me questions why I was coming back. And of course I'm starting to cry. And I just turned around, and the woman was very curt.
Of course.
And I mean, this was they were much nicer they didn't know what I was crying about anyway, but she was very curt to me. And I said, my daughter's missing. And she said something very, I remember it was very curt. I don't remember what she said. I just knew it was very curt.
No. I think it was generally agreed upon that it was nicer that Skye went missing in Japan than here because of just the attitude we face here.
Yeah. And I remember getting off the plane and Dad meeting me. And I just told him I left her. I didn't know what to do, but I left her there. And then you got on with it. Isn't that amazing? The pain. And then just get on with it. Because you have no choice. You really didn't. You went to work. It was kind of funny though. Well, it wasn't funny really, but at that time, my organization was beginning to have people work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go into work. I cried. And I worked. And I cried. And I worked. Basically, I was doing data entry, so you can cry and do that. With no problem whatsoever.
Find a job you can cry at.
Oh, but I didn't realize at the time I was upsetting the unit. This is all women who have children. And they came to me. And basically they said, we were going to, offer this later on, but we're going to send you home to work.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
Yeah,
That's kind of what happens when you deal with like a traumatic situation or just grief that you can't.
What can you do?
People just kind of like shoo you away. Even if it's unintentional, it's like, we're kind of a heavy vibe.
To me, it was like, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
To me, it was thank you. But now that you put it that way,
just like
I didn't think
put
of
her
it.
in the back. Put her in the back. We don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was sent home with my computer. Other women and other people was awful. I mean, this was like a startup project.
Yeah.
And this was like, well, we're starting it up, and people were going to be offered if you want to do this, and you seem like an ideal.
Nobody wants to look at you.
Yeah,
we're sending you home.
You were in an ideal situation. You are
in
a
quota to me.
Yeah. But,
yeah. What the fuck?
Well, I just kind of looked at it and said, thank you. This way I can get up in the morning.
How many times have we thanked people throughout this whole process
for
just like a shitty job done?
I know.
Thanks for the support.
Oh, there wasn't
any. There wasn't any.
There wasn't. No. I know my supervisor talked with me, and they made a collection. But Meg, people go on.
They do. Of course they go on.
It's either you go on or you get stepped on.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, like I know I got I threw myself into whatever was going to keep me from thinking about it.
Yeah, didn't we all?
Like,
That's what
I got
we
a
did.
promotion at work.
Yeah.
And all of it, like, I'm getting a degree. When I wasn't working, I was going to school.
Yeah.
Just, just to not think about
You
things.
did. You always had work, so you worked full time. You went to school.
And then I would party on the weekends to make sure every single minute was occupied.
And I tore up my yard.
Yeah.
And planted flowers and shrubs, and I totally dug out my yard.
Yep.
Because.
And you know what that looks like on the outside? Success.
Yeah.
It looks like, oh, they're moving on. Great.
They're moving on. Did you? Well, because that but it took me.
I feel like you gotta check in on like the high achievers.
Yeah, it took me 4 years to stop crying every day.
Yeah.
4 years. Every morning I would wake up in tears, and I would cry, and then you get on with it. You work and you got on with life, and if you saw something on TV, or I always made sure that if I'm watching a show or if I'm reading a book, it would not trigger anything.
Oh, 100%. You know what happened with me? I know that I realized quickly, and I didn't know it at that time, is that like trauma seeds trauma. So I had a lot of like coworkers and stuff come out of the woodwork and start telling me about murders.
Oh yeah.
And domestic violence that they're dealing with. All this stuff, because it's like they saw what was coming for me. They saw it.
Yeah.
And they see it, and like so many people are just suffering. So many people, and they can't talk about it, and it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
You can't be ugly out in the world.
No.
Because they'll send you home to work, and you still got to meet that quota.
Yeah.
You're just never given enough time to deal. Like 3 days of bereavement? Come on.
Yeah.
And you expect to move on?
I know. Isn't
Cool.
that, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Or even a birth of a child.
Yeah. Come back in 6 weeks.
Oh my God.
6 weeks.
I remember.
That child is different every week.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to... No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Come back later on. Yeah. But that is the world we live in.
It's not worth it.
And...
Fucking not worth it.
Because I'm older, I realize that's the world we live in.
But why? Why is it that we as people have chosen this? Why are we stuck like this?
Yeah.
It's not cool. Like,
No.
we all got to talk about this more, guys.